Welcome to another lecture with Professor Dennis. This one is on common personal narrative errors and how to avoid them. There are some common errors I want to walk you through so that you can avoid these in your own personal narrative writing or any creative writing that you embark upon beyond this course. Join me for a moment as I switch from my teacher's cap to my editor's hat. Yes, there is a difference. As an editor, I do see a lot of mistakes from professional authors that I want to cover here. I tell you this so that you understand that even the pros are still working on some of these issues. It's a continual learning journey, and you should embrace that journey, not fear it. The first is started to, began to. If you can eliminate the phrases started to and began to, you will have a much cleaner piece of writing. This one action provides you with a direct action that engages your reader on a deeper level. For example, he started to run versus he ran. He began to walk versus he walked. It's much more crisp and clean for your reader. Here we have what is known as a verb tense shift. These are common in beginner writers, especially with personal narratives. The reason for this is because when you're writing, you can get swept up in the moment and feel like you're really there. This causes your brain to move from the past tense, ran, into the present tense, runs, back into the past tense when you finally realize what's going on. And your job is to make sure that all of your writing for a personal narrative is in the past tense. This is because it's already happened, so it needs to stay in the past where it belongs. An example of verb tense shift would be, he ran through the mall. When she finally catches up with him, she tells him about the secret. So we went from ran to catches and tells, past to present. With beginning writers, one of the most common grammatical errors I see is the proper S to use in their writing. The normal S that is tacked on to the end of the word or the normal ES that is tacked on has one function, and that is to show more than one. For example, cats. There's no apostrophe, there's no anything, it's just the straight S. The apostrophe S shows possession, and it means that someone or something owns something else. For example, the cat's toy. The toy belongs to the cat. The apostrophe S could also be a shortened form of is, as in, that cat's mean. If we break it apart, we have that cat is mean. In other words, that apostrophe is saying you can replace words. The toy belongs to the cat becomes the cat's toy. The cat is mean becomes the cat's mean. Finally, we have the S apostrophe. And this is really to show when more than one owns something. For example, the cat's toys. We have multiple cats, and they all own these toys. So those are the different types of S's. It's one that can really throw a reader off if you don't use the correct one. So make sure you have gone through and corrected all of your S's, specifically the apostrophe. I see it overused. Make sure you know how to correctly use it. Another common mistake that is easily fixed in a personal narrative is the me and construct. When it comes to writing, you want to remember that words like I and me always go last in the lineup. It has to do with being polite and recognizing the others first. This also avoids you making the mistake of saying me and Jane. If you say it too fast, it sounds like you're calling Jane mean. Often I want to ask, just how mean was she? To avoid this, try Jane and I or Jane and me. It helps to take the mean out of your writing. I'm sure that everyone remembers the old jokes from elementary school days about Pete and his brother Repeat. The person tells a joke that ends with a question. The answer to the question is always the brother's name, repeat. This leads to the jokester repeating the joke over again. The reason I bring this up? To help you remember not to repeat common words and phrases too much. Every author has what I like to call the author's tell. It's the go-to words or phrases that help to keep you moving during that rough draft stage or the word vomit phase of writing. While these words or phrases are stellar to help you push forward like you need to, you don't want to leave them there. You need to examine your writing for words you might have overused or repeated too many times. Consider changing at least half of those. What's mine? Look. My characters are always looking this way, or giving a look, or looking around, or looking happy or sad or excited. I know my author tells, and because I know them, I know to watch for them. Your job is to identify some of your own author tells so that you can avoid them in your final draft. Thank them for their hard work done in that word vomit phase, and then gently let them go. Much like the words we use, we also have to watch out for the overuse of the same sentence structures. If we use the exact same sentence structures over and over again in our writing, we can end up sounding like Dr. Seuss. What I have here is an example, an oversimplified example, but an example nonetheless. Here is the repeat pattern of noun, verb, prepositional phrase, in that order every time. The dog jumped on my dress. I yelled at the dog. The dog hid under the couch. I walked up the stairs. The sentence structures we choose actually do create a rhythm and a cadence to the writing. If you're not careful, you end up with something that sounds like it's out of a children's book instead of a smoothly pieced together narrative. To avoid this, read through your piece out loud and decide if there's anything that could potentially be revised by combining sentences or altering the structure of the sentence in some way. Another common mistake I see in student writing and even professional writing is the overuse of the words as, then, and while. While it's not a bad thing to have these words in your writing, you don't want to overuse them. Many people use these and overuse these to help them further the action of the story. I recall one author who started every other sentence with, and then. No, I am not exaggerating. Every other sentence, and then. The problem with overusing phrases is that your reader's brain will get caught up in the repetitive language and get lost before they can reach the end. To avoid this, try to use these phrases sparingly. When you find one, ask yourself if you can revise the area to remove it. One of the biggest errors I see all the time in personal narratives is the paragraphing and punctuation of dialogue. For paragraphing, when you change the speaker, you need a new paragraph. Each speaker gets their own time in the limelight by having their own paragraph. Without this, the reader can become easily lost on who is speaking when. Next, for the punctuation of dialogue, always have your commas and periods hug the word. The quotation marks go after that. Finally, when you have internal dialogue where the character is speaking to him or herself, the thought part goes in italics. The rest is normal font. I have examples here for you. I even have for you the quote within the quote, so that you know how to use that in case you have a quote within a quote. The one thing that never fails in each and every term is that at least one of my students turns in a personal narrative with research and a works cited page. While you might have to do a bit of research for this paper, you do not have in-text citations and you do not have a works cited page. Let me say that again. Do not give works cited. This is a story. It gets told like a story. A story does not include research formatting. Now, I have seen where a student creatively showed their reader the research she did on her phone and what she found during that drive home. It included research, but it was done in a creative way, not a research-based way. Save the research for your other paper types. You'll have plenty of time to learn all that formatting then. For now, enjoy the creativity that this paper type allows you. The one thing I cannot emphasize enough for any paper is to avoid the 5-paragraph essay. If you are in one of my classes, I can promise you that the 5-paragraph essay only holds disaster and dismay for you. Do not turn in a 5-paragraph essay. It is limiting and detrimental to what you're attempting to accomplish with this piece. So how do you avoid the 5-paragraph essay? Know when to have paragraph breaks. When there is a shift from one character to another, either as a speaker or with an action that takes place, start a new paragraph. If you shift from one scene to another, have a paragraph break. You should not be at school and then in your kitchen all in the same paragraph. If you shift in ideas or tone, you want a paragraph break to help your reader follow that shift. Finally, if you are spanning a long amount of time, hours, days, weeks, etc., you should have a paragraph just for that span of time so that your reader is better able to follow that change with you. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, do not hesitate to reach out using that email icon in your learning management system. I hope you found this helpful as you revise your personal narrative paper. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you on the flip side.